if you get engaged into an intimate sexual relationship before the relationship is mature and ready, you're going to create an emotional connection, a bond that's so significant. You will be so, especially women, we get so emotionally attached. It creates that bond. You're giving yourself to somebody in such an intimate way. Before you recognize if this is that right person, you've lost the eyesight, you've lost the health gauge, you've lost the ability to see and track, is this the right guy? That takes time. And people are so quick. Women are quick. We're quick because we want the relationship. We're quick because there's a desperation. We're quick because we feel lonely. If you are having an abundant life, if you're working on a life of abundance and you're giving back, you're contributing, you're doing the things that you love, your life will stand for something that you're more excited about, where you're not giving yourself away. You're not giving away your worth. You got to stand firm, and you have to enjoy the journey. And Nancy, I know you know this, the more that you take your time and you make yourself valuable and you take that time and you go slow, that man is going to have such a higher respect for you. And if he doesn't, he's not the right guy. He's not the right guy.
Hi, Janine. Welcome to the Awakened Heart podcast.
Nancy, how are you? It's so good to be here. Thank you for having me today.
You're welcome. I'm so glad to have you on. And I love the subject we're going to be talking about, because I know that everybody longs for a soulmate. And it's so important to have, that have a really great relationship, because a lot of marriages and relationships are ending in divorce, or they don't work out because, maybe they're not holding out for something that like lights them on fire, that sometimes people just want that companionship, or they don't want to be alone, or they're attracting people for the wrong reasons. And I love what you're doing with your work, Gem Revealed, and you're helping people really find long and lasting love. So I would love to hear what led you to doing this kind of work.
Yeah, wow, what a great question. Well, let's go right back to the beginning. All right, let's pull the curtain back. What is Gem Revealed? Where did it come from? So great. So that really would bring me back to my career in the corporate world. I have done the same really focus on executive leadership and human behavior for almost 20 years, which gives away a little bit of my age. So I'm a little concerned about that. But
Your age, own it, baby. You look gorgeous. Gorgeous. Age is nothing.
That is really true mindset. So 2 decades I have really been working as a life strategist and on human behavior, but it's been inside of the corporate world. And probably two years ago, I began that discontent a little bit. There was discontent in me and saying, like, there was something more. I wanted to do something more. I felt as if I was always working for somebody else's mission. But what about my own? What were my own burning desires? And so I started putting together the framework for Gem Revealed. And then all of a sudden, this gift of COVID comes. And I say that with respect, not, the gift of COVID, it's just devastating in the big realm. For me, what it did was allow me to have a furlough from my incredibly demanding 60-hour-a-week job. So with that, when that furlough came, I really got to focus on Gem Revealed. And you said it. You said something so filled with wisdoms, and there's pearls of wisdom in it. 1 out of every 2 marriages are failing. 1 out of every 2 marriages are failing. And if I thought about the tool belt that I was so passionate about, which was human behavior, and I thought about it, I really thought long and hard about mindset, human behavior, leadership, that tool belt, and I beg anyone to have this conversation with me. That tool belt is the same exact tool belt that we need to really look inside, look in the mirror, take ownership, take responsibility to become the best versions of ourselves in effort to have a healthy relationship. Today, Nancy, Everyone is getting into a relationship for all the wrong reasons, and all the wrong expectations are wrapped around it. And we're forgetting about who we are in our best self journey and relying on our significant other, our partner, our boyfriend, our girlfriend, our husbands to really become our savior. So when I began the journey and I was in my furlough, I started really reflecting, responding, thinking about what Gem Revealed is. And there you have it. Pull the curtains back. We are here to really self mastery to soulmate, self mastery to soulmate.
Mm-hmm. You said something really important, and that is like being able to, you self reflected, and it's about not looking for somebody else to completely, like not being a half person seeking another half person. Nobody else can complete you. So it's about finding another whole part to connect with the whole part of yourself.
I love that. And I love the way you said it. And I would say, this comes with a lot of bumps in the road. At the ages of 50, in my early 50s now, being in my early 50s, I'm a divorced lady, right? I'm 15 years into my divorce. And I was married at 21. Now, you have no right to be married at 21. We had no tools. We didn't know what we were
Yes.
doing. And I am that person. I'm that woman. I went into my marriage, young girl, with this just fantasy about marriage. Like, you're supposed to make me happy. And you're not
Mhm.
making me happy right now.
Mhm.
You're not fulfilling my dreams of what my prince is supposed to do for me. And unfortunately, once we had children, boy, oh boy, did that really fester, and it landed me in divorce. Now I can come all the way forward now, and I'm so sorry for this tickle in my throat.
You have to
Okay, I
edit
think
that
it's gone.
out.
Yeah, I think it's gone now. But the reality is I can look back now. I look back now as the woman I am today with the knowledge and the amount that I've put into my own self development, the amount that I've had to put into my own responsibility and taking ownership. I can look back now with different eyes and go, I could have saved my marriage. I'm not saying I made the wrong move. I'm not saying, oh, woe is me. I regret everything. No. What I'm saying is, if I was the woman I was today, if I was that person back then, I would have went into the marriage very differently and had the tools to work through obstacles that really I created. I created the obstacles that were there.
Mhm.
We created them.
Oh my gosh, your story resonates with my story because I too was married very young. I was with somebody, I'd known him a while, and I was with him from 18. We got married at when I was 23, and I had this, I don't know, I just thought, the man's supposed to complete you and he's supposed to do everything. He's supposed to make me happy, so nobody should be married that young, really, because we change so much as individuals, especially as a woman. Like, who you are at 18 is not who you are at 23 or 25 or 30. So, thinking that a man is going to complete me, and there was the whole fantasy world, like, here you're engaged and then you're getting married. And I remember the come down a couple months later because I wasn't at that high of getting, and I thought there was this whole fantasy around. So after all that activity was done, I'm left with myself, because we're always left with ourselves. And what you said about thinking, like, well, if you are who you are now, back in that relationship, you might have been able to save it. I have been reflecting on that myself recently because I just found out my ex-husband has just gotten married. And unfortunately, he didn't call and tell me. We had a friendship before, but his girlfriend, I'm one of those that she doesn't want him talking to me at all. So we had always said that, hey, if you ever get married, just let the other know. Well, he didn't let me know. So I found out through a mutual friend of ours. And so, but I was thinking, man, it would have been so nice to have him later in life, because I think it would have worked, because I wouldn't have had all these crazy expectations that are just so like out there, like expectations for him to fulfill my whole world. So I think if we had met later in life, maybe we'd still be together.
Yeah, we can all be Monday morning quarterbacks, right? It's so easy to say woulda, coulda, shoulda, but where do we take our responsibility now? And that's what Gem Revealed is all about. And, I focus on a lot more of the coaching than matchmaking. So many people are out there looking for the love of their life, for their soulmate.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking for their soulmate. But the reality is, and I say this, and whoever is listening, please, this is the light bulb moment. This is so cliche too. So when I say it, you're going to be like, that's really it. But until you really understand who you are, and you're living an abundant life, that you are getting fulfillment from your life aside from a relationship, independent of a relationship, you and yourself, you look in the mirror and you are feeling content, maybe not content because we always want to grow and move forward, but in love with your life, that you're living an abundant life, that you're moving forward, you understand what your core values are. This is the kind of work that you need to do in effort to really have a healthy, long-lasting relationship. Because outside of that, you're going to be looking into this person to really fulfill you in areas that no one can fulfill you unless you're doing the hard work yourself. Not to say you have to come to, this unbelievable end of the line and know everything, perfectly about yourself, and then you get married, but you can't be so void of it and hurting as a wounded bird and carrying this big old luggage behind you filled with pain and limiting beliefs and, so much baggage there that you can't even think about,
Mm-hmm.
creating a healthy relationship until that inner self, that inner work is done.
Mm-hmm. Because if you think about it on a energetic level, like attract likes, it doesn't attract the opposite. So the signal you're sending out is that what you're going to attract. So if you're not in this whole place, you might be attracting somebody that has a lot of, I mean, everyone's got their own issues, but some of the deep wounding that you haven't taken the time to heal yourself. So a lot of times you're going to be attracting, and the draw is going to be the pull's going to be so great, but then you're attracting to their wounds, and two wounds are coming together. So yes, that brings me to another thing. As you were talking about, is some people don't complete the work. Some people look at like, look, I've been doing all the personal development work. I'm happy on my own. I love my job. I love my life, and they're still not coming together with that person. And then we see the people, oh, they break up and 2 months later they're with someone else and they're seemingly a great guy. So what do you say to the woman that has done all the work, or the man that has done all the work and is in that aligned space, and might start feeling bad about themselves because here's, Shirley or John, and they just got out of something and they're in something again.
Right. There's a lot that we just said. So I would take it piece by piece there.
Mm-hmm.
So what I heard, just so I know what we're kind of dialoguing and bouncing back and forth, the two separate things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would say you and I are in one piece of it, right? I think that you and I have done a lot of that work. We've done the heavy lifting, but we're not in that solid long-term relationship yet. On the other hand, you see, people with baggage, and they're going from one to another to another to another. So in that, what I would say first, if we're looking at, men or women like you or I, people who are doing the due diligence, you're taking the time, you're peeling the layers back, you're looking at yourself, you're trying to create that abundant life, understanding what core values are, maybe even making sure you're doing, dating is really the playground to understand what do I want long term. But once you have that discovered, that doesn't mean that all of a sudden Prince Charming is going to show up. And if you're doing it well and right, you could do it all good. And this is really important right here. You can do it so well and meet somebody, and not everybody is perfect for you. So I would just share with you, over this past summer, I had met somebody out of the gate that I thought he was it. Like, oh my goodness, we had all the same core values. We had the same interests. He was so good looking, physically appealing, chemistry, everything was there. But, couple of months in, I recognized it's not it. We knew together, a couple of things that weren't working out. Specifically, my core values of faith wasn't aligning with his. That means we broke apart. The point is in that beginning stages, it can feel great, but unless you're lining up with your core values, it's okay that you come apart. That's why we're supposed to go slow. Even if we're feeling a connection and the excitement and the adrenaline and that like super cool, sexy emotion, it's got to be tempered. You have to temper it, because unless you're really spending enough time together and enough seasons together to understand that you are in oneness together, and that your core values align, your purposes align, your life of fulfillment aligns together. If you don't go slow enough, if you don't go slow enough, you're going to end up hurt. You'll bypass the toll gates. If you go straight to like a physical, sexual relationship, way before the relationship's ready and mature. For me, I'm a faith-based female, so I'll say it. Most people think this is prehistoric from the dinosaur ages, and I'm okay with it. But for me, that's reserved for the marriage, right? From a faith-based place. So I reserve that for a marriage. Anyone else listening, before you take the, throw the baby out with the bathwater, listen to the principle. If you get engaged into an intimate sexual relationship before the relationship is mature and ready, you're going to create an emotional connection, a bond that's so significant. You will be so, especially women, we get so emotionally attached. It creates that bond. You're giving yourself to somebody in such an intimate way before you recognize if this is that right person. You've lost the eyesight, you've lost the health gauge, you've lost the ability to see and track, is this the right guy? That takes time. And people are so quick. Women are quick. We're quick because we want the relationship. We're quick because there's a desperation. We're quick because we feel lonely. If you are having an abundant life, if you're working on a life of abundance and you're giving back, you're contributing, you're doing the things that you love, your life will stand for something that you're more excited about, where you're not giving yourself away. You're not giving away your worth. You got to stand firm, and you have to enjoy the journey. And Nancy, I know you know this, the more that you take your time and you make yourself valuable, and you take that time and you go slow, that man is going to have such a higher respect for you. And if he doesn't, he's not the right guy. He's not the right guy. So if I bring it back to where we began, it's really the expectations of like, okay, so you and I were not in long-standing relationships as of this moment, but I'm not about to settle, and I'll take the time it takes, because I won't just settle and get into this, long-term relationship until I know. And that you might have to go through, I don't know, countless amounts until you find that person that is that perfect alignment. And perfect is a big word. So I'll say, until you find the person who you believe you can create that long lasting love, healthy love.
Yeah, you said so many gems in there. And, the whole physical aspect, it's something that I used to do in the past. I thought, oh, the way to bonding is, by having sex. I'd have sex on the first date. Oh, not often, but I did. And they've turned into relationships. And I've had it on the third date. And I've turned into really good relationships too. But as I got older and really wanting something really and lasting, I would give myself too easy, and they'd be in and they'd be out. Like literally, I learned to, I always heard, I forgot who said it, to keep your heart locked in the trunk of your suitcase until you get to know the person, until they prove themselves. But I used to come in jumping with my heart right away before I even knew the person. And that bonding is so true, because as women, that oxytocin is released, and it's a euphoric drug. And it's not just like, it's literally a chemical physical reaction, and it's addictive. And so when you're getting addicted to that chemical physical, like, how are you supposed to know the person? You've got all this physical bonding. How are you supposed to discern if this person is right for you? Because you want that, you crave that physical connection so bad, you're letting all these things override you. And I just listened, I don't know if you know Create the Love or Mark Groves. He's amazing. He's on Instagram. He has his own programs. He's awesome. So he just was talking about how, I think where you and I both are in our life right now, as far as dating, we know ourselves so well. We know what we want, what we don't want, and what our worth is. So he was talking about red flags, how a lot of people will ignore the red flags. Oh, well, he did this. Well, but he's nice. And, I just, it's better than being alone. So I'm just going to let that red flag go. But it's like, we get to a certain point where we see them right away, and we listen to them. And it's like, if he doesn't call you when he says he's going to call you, gone. It's like sweeping it out. If he's not consistent, if he cancels on a date, done. Like, I am so in, and I don't even have tolerance for stuff like that. I sweep them out so quick. Um, but it's recognizing those red flags and honoring them and not letting them go by. I mean, as you get deeper in a relationship, there might be a flag that comes up and you're a little more vested in it. Then you have the conversation around the thing that might have caused the red flag. Maybe it's not a like big blaring, hey, warning, warning sign, but a little like it's tweaking or something that's bothering you, to address it and bring it up instead of just sweeping it under the rug. So yeah, it's coming to that, boundaries and core values, and coming to that, boundaries. How important are boundaries?
Oh my goodness, how important boundaries. Can we put that on the shelf for 1 minute? Because I want to go back to
Sure.
something,
Sure.
but because boundaries is just that's a whole
Yeah.
conversation, right? So I want to go back to intimacy and
Okay.
sexuality because it's such a big deal, right? And as I heard you talking about it, the more of my mind, what I would say to anyone, because you're so beautiful and sharing, here's what my younger self did, and we're all guilty, right? And I want to also say, any female who's listening, we do understand the emotional drive, that feeling, the love. That's who we are. We're women. We want the physical touch and to be loved and to be nurtured. But to go back and understand it at a deeper human behavior level, one, instant gratification is always detrimental. It's always detrimental. The more that we're able to really understand what's right for us, and the more that you hold true to it, the better the prize in the end, the better the reward, the better the bonding, the better the emotion. And to understand it from a female and male perspective, men are different. They're very different. They're created different. Women are created very different. Men they need respect. Women, they need nurturing, right? That's who we are. When a female, when that happens before the mature relationship is ready, and you put intimacy into that relationship, a man is gonna back away. You might get into a continued relationship, but immediately a woman, psychologically, I'm broad stroke, by the way, not every female and not every male, but the way that the female is made, the way that the male is made, there is absolute research. A female is going to create the bond that bonds her. For a male, he's not ready. If a man is not ready, there is no way he is going to take the walls down. He's not going to have trust. He's going to back away because you're coming forward now. And his instant response the next day is to be more pulled back. It is absolute. So it's broad stroke. It's not every man, but the more that you take the time and the man is able to be the hunter for you, the provider, the man that he needs to be, that takes time for him, because he'll do that when he believes that you're the right people together. Sex is never going to create that bond that's needed for him to rise up into that space where he needs to be, and for you to rise up to be the woman who completes him in that healthy gauge. So sex, there is nothing more beautiful than an intimate sexual relationship when it's in a healthy environment. So it's not, sex isn't bad, sex is beautiful, it's an incredible feeling inside, we all want it, but when you put it into the right parameter and in the right space, that's when it gets more beautiful. Once it's introduced too soon, it really is it's gonna create an unbelievable crack in your foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Is
And
it
I've heard,
overcoming? Yes, you can overcome it. But I really strongly encourage, don't do it until you believe it's ready.
yes, and you can set the pace as well. And I remember one of my teachers telling me that men crave freedom, that it's inherent to a male. They want freedom. So, when they come together with you too soon, they're going to back away because they want that freedom, because they feel they're going to be trapped. And I've heard a beautiful saying about how, a man, when he is with a woman, knowing he's going to allow himself freedom, that she's not going to stop him. That doesn't mean him running around sleeping with different girls, but allow him to be free with himself where he doesn't feel trapped. He's going to worship at the temple of your heart. And I love that. It's so beautiful. So, it's inherent in a male to have freedom. What Janine's talking about as well is it's just the nature. It's the male nature, it's the woman's nature that it's written in the DNA. It's been passed on for centuries and a millennia. It's just how men are back when they were hunter and gatherers. They provide for the woman, and the woman she needs to be cherished, and we need to respect our man, because when us as women lose respect for our man, it's over.
Over.
It's really hard to get it back.
Very, very much so. And you quickly went into boundaries, right? When we lose our self-worth, we lose our boundaries. And when you have lack of real understanding and expectation around what a healthy relationship looks like, again, then we don't have boundaries. If you've grown up with poor role modeling, right? If you've never seen what a healthy relationship looks like today, if 1 out of every 2 marriages are failing, there's so much divisiveness, there's so much unhealthy view of what a relationship is. I think of my own children. They've never seen me in a healthy relationship. They saw me and their dad, which was really unhealthy. That's poor role modeling. So therefore, I'm constantly have to making sure that I'm working with my children to help them see what is a healthy relationship. What does that look like? So that they have the right expectations, right? Most people don't have the right expectations. Most people don't have self-worth where it needs to be, and therefore the boundaries really are slim to none. So boundaries, without boundaries, one, we're jumping into bed, or we're allowing, you said it before, and I'm so grateful for this, and I'd like to go a little deeper here. You said I sweep it away so fast if they're late, or if maybe they say something snarky or something, you're quicker to push them away now. And that's because you have the right boundaries. If somebody shows up late, first, second, third date, that's the boundary you set.
Mhm.
If they only want to see you on, a Monday and a Friday, or a Monday and a Wednesday, and you're not the Saturday night girl and you allow it, that's the boundaries you've created. If you think that they can yell at you and maybe call you a name one time and then you let it go, they're going to do it again. And that's the boundaries you're creating. If you don't understand up front, before you meet that gentleman today, look in the mirror and understand, who are you? What do you deserve? You're a princess.
Mhm.
You're a beautiful, beautiful princess. And he deserves to treat you like that. And he deserves to be on time for you. He deserves to tell you up front where you're going, what you're doing, and what time, and you're worth it. And it should be a couple of days in advance where he gives you that notice, because you're worth it.
Mhm.
And when you don't allow that type of boundaries up front, you're telling him out of the gate, you're not worth it.
Mhm.
You're not worth it. Now, I'm not saying be a rigid, non-flexible, egotistical, you do as I say. That is not what I'm saying. But a woman who shows up with confidence, with such a love and adoration and respect, deserves in return. So I promise you, ladies, I'm going to say something hurtful. Am I allowed to say it?
Mhm. Please do.
If your man is late, if he's texting you the night before, if he's only giving you the booty calls, if he's only calling you at 10 o'clock at night, if he's, gets away with yelling at you, and the next day, you're back together and forgiving it because you'll change him, I would tell you, you're not going to get anything better than that, because you're allowing it, and you are really allowing it.
Mhm. Yeah, so beautifully said. It's our own personal responsibility. And I think boundaries really come with time and making our mistakes and knowing ourselves. Absolutely. I had softer boundaries in the past. I just didn't want to rock the boat, or I just didn't want to lose the person. But in reality, what you're actually doing is losing yourself, and you're betraying yourself, and nothing's worse than that. So when a relationship ends, it's like looking back at the risk. A lot of people blame the other person, where there is a lot on the other person, but you got to look at how you showed up, how we showed up, and how did we allow that, and how did we betray ourselves by allowing that to happen. So that's so important when it comes to dating, especially when we're looking for our soulmates, because a soulmate is that relationship where it's easy. you have the same foundations, you get along. It doesn't mean that everything's perfect, but you are just aligned on so many different levels. So coming to the definition of a soulmate, what would you describe, or how would you describe what a soulmate is?
That's a great question. I don't know if I have a Webster's version of what that is.
Webster's boring.
Exactly. I would say it's nothing more, and it's not as glamorous as one might hope. It would be somebody that you believe that your core values are aligned, your purposes are aligned, and that you've come together with a full-on commitment to spend life together, but you're going to work through the obstacles because love does. Love is an action. It is not a feeling alone. Love is an expectation, it's a choice, and it's an action. You have to wake up and choose to love instead of hate. You have to choose to not be offended. You have to choose not to, be self-righteous. These are things that, unless you really understand, now you and I, we've grown to the place in our life where we know what our boundaries are, but I didn't know this in my 30s. I didn't know this in my, my late 30s. I'm not sure if I knew it in my 40s,
Mhm.
to the extent today that I feel more beautiful, more prepared, more ready, and more able to receive my soulmate because my boundaries are more in place, and because I would be able to be more flexible, right? I understand where I need to be flexible, where I need to put the line in the sand, because I understand who I am and what I need. But now, the same mistakes that you said, you made, like, okay, maybe if he came late, maybe if he said this, or, if he didn't act exactly the way I wanted, I would stick around because, I didn't know any better. Today, very different. In fact, a quick story to really give it, I know people really enjoy stories because it really brings it to life. Somebody had tried to set me up on a date with another gentleman who, visually looked very appealing, on, his voice, on, Zoom, got through all that part. So on the very first time that we were supposed to meet, the first time we were supposed to meet for dinner, I got a text same day that said he had to cancel. And it was because very valid reasons, very, very valid reasons. So I didn't think anything of it, right? I just, no problem. Well, I think within 10-day time period, we were set up again to go out on another evening, and he had to cancel again. Again, it was a really valid understanding of why he needed to cancel. So now I'm just going to put the story on hold a moment. If you're going to cancel twice, um, I'm going to just, be really graphic for a minute, but that you've got to send flowers, you got to send a note, you got to do something enormous to really override the deficits. Because now we got a bunch of withdrawals here. You got to make a lot of deposits to make up for that. Didn't happen. So the next time that he asked to go out, I simply said, no, and I'd like to share why. And it wasn't mean. I wasn't rude. I wasn't a jerk. I said, I really was looking forward to meeting you. You're incredibly handsome, and I really like that we had a great conversation. But the reason why I will never see you is because you canceled twice, and you canceled twice, but you didn't go out of the way to make me feel special. You didn't do anything extraordinary to really make sure that you made up for that. You just canceled twice and said, well, we'll go back. And if I open the door to that, I've already let you know that that's okay. And it's not okay. It's not okay. And I went back to my corporate world for a minute. If I'm interviewing for a position, a really high position, because your life partner is a high position. If I'm interviewing for a high position, that person cancels twice, are you going to hire that person? No. Why would you let him into your life as your significant other? And he texted me back, and you know what he said? Thank you.
Mm.
Thank you for sharing that. I messed up.
Mhm.
And at that point, he maybe could have the next day sent me 12 dozen roses. I didn't get anything. I didn't get anything. So I knew that I made the right
Saved
decision, because that
yourself.
guy I want him to send me the 12 dozen roses the next day because I'm worth it.
Mhm.
That's not arrogance. I promise you it's not arrogance. It's self-worth and it's boundaries.
And it's how you deserve to be treated. And it's what makes you tick. It's what Janine is. It's what your values are. And some people might not even have those same values or requirements, but that is you. And you shouldn't be apologetic for what works for you and what makes
Right.
you feel loved, because that's what it comes down to
That's
is
really important. What you
Mhm,
just said, those are my beliefs, by the way.
mhm,
That's my beliefs. I'm sharing it. I'm telling you and defining what boundaries look like. For you, it's something different, right? For every female listening, it's different. So whatever you hold is your boundary and your benchmark. That's what you need to hold on to. So you're so beautiful in what you just said. That's mine. I
mhm,
don't know what yours, who's ever listening, are, but keep them, make sure you know what they are and make sure that they're real for you. But
mhm,
yeah, I love what you were saying.
And I absolutely loved how you, instead of just saying no, you actually had a beautiful open dialogue, or you opened up and shared with, in a nice way, why you weren't going to see him again, which is almost paying it forward to other women later on. So hopefully he won't repeat that behavior with someone else, but yet still, he took that in and said, thank you for that. But still, he didn't show up in the level that you needed him to show up. There's so many different things he could have done along the way that might have still kept you engaged with him. And then if he showed up and did the same thing again, like if he canceled again, even if he sent you a dozen roses and then he canceled again without showing up, it's just a pattern that
Right.
needs to be.
You nailed it. He didn't have the self-awareness, and even if I gave it to him, at that point he could have done anything, romantic comedy. He could have done anything. Send
Mhm,
somebody to my put roses on my car and anything, anything. And
mhm.
there was nothing there. So it wasn't the guy for me at all.
Yeah.
Wasn't
And sharing my own story about cancellations twice. So this was years ago, and there was somebody that I wanted. I had met him. He was a friend of a friend. I was excited about going out with him, and then he had to cancel, but he was legitimately sick. So I could hear in his voice he didn't want to cancel, and he had to cancel. And then we had another date lined up for a couple days later after he felt better, and I had to cancel because I used to do commercials and I was going to be stuck on set longer, and then I had to get up like at 4 a.m. to go back to set, so I canceled. And meanwhile, we had really these beautiful conversations where we talked for like a full half hour, and it was deep. It was a connection. And then we finally made a date again, and he shows up at the front door with a book that we had talked about, Fingerprints of the Gods by Graham Hancock. And so he showed up with this book, and oh my God, he was the sweetest, and he turned out to be the love of my life. So he did do it, and we still did keep that connection. But that was like, it was one of those wonderful relationships. But I've had many people that have canceled, or like I've had them before, like, oh, I fell asleep. I'm like, I fell asleep. I've gotten the fallen asleep.
no.
That is not excuse. So oh, I fell asleep. Done. Done, 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 done. Sorry.
Right. I mean, you can have a legitimate excuse, right? Like if I ever, but the point is if I had to cancel on someone that I was really looking forward to, the whole rest of the day, that night, the next day, I'm going to make sure that person knew that this was legitimate. I'm going to work extra hard to let them understand this was really a one off. This is not who I am. This is not this is not my DNA here. I'm going to make sure that there's not one reservation in their mind that they might think about, is she playing me here?
Mhm,
That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So there's legitimate excuses. And again, this is what's important to me.
mhm.
You've got to determine what is important to you. I would let you say up front, if somebody's canceling on you, I hope that that's I hope it's one of your boundaries.
Yes.
But again, that's important to me.
hmm Yes, boundaries are so, so important. And I know that you have all these amazing programs. You've got Gen Revealed that has a lot of different, it's coaching, it's dating tips, it's helping, it's matchmaking, it's all these beautiful things that you've created to help people find that soulmate and find that just not ordinary love, but extraordinary love. And a lot of that is getting prepared within yourself first. I'm sure that's one of your key steps. So, what do you do? Like, take me through kind of how you prepare somebody to have that relationship.
I think that's a really great question. So what we're really talking about is the customer experience journey. What does that look like when Gem Revealed meets a client? So it's actually a beautiful journey. When I meet a client, the first thing that we do is actually the last thing when we do is talk about matchmaking. That really does go on the side. And here's the reason. I am not the matchmaker who's going to bring forth somebody for you in a week's time. It's not anything at all of what we're going to talk about. We're going to put the soulmate on the back burner. And that very first thing that we do is really talk about, who are you? What lights you up? What are you most passionate about? What is your purpose in this life, and how are you living it out? So we really get a clear understanding of what your purpose is. And most people are living a very robotic life. They wake up every day and they just let life happen. Perhaps they went to school, they got a job, the dating game, it worked, it didn't work, it worked, it didn't work, but they're still in the same job, and maybe they're pursuing their career. But are they pursuing a life of their dreams? And that word can be a little flaky for people. Maybe, dreams, that's for other people. No, that is for you and I. Are you building an intentional life? A life that you're being very proactive and intentionally building. That's something really clear. We want to get on that journey. We want to put you on that path. We want to understand then, what are your core values and how are they showing up in your life? What are your real intrinsic core values? What do you hold really high? And again, this is really important. How do these core values become your decision makers? How are they your guardrails? Once you move outside of your guardrails, once you live outside of your core values, that's friction and compromise sets in, right? So if you're a woman who is like highly into health and wellness, I don't mean, you like to go to the gym. I mean, it's a core value, a non-negotiable. You're living a life of, significant health and wellness. If you're going to meet somebody who's not in that realm with you, that's going to could create compromise. So we want to understand, what are your core values that you're actually using as guardrails for your life, ones that are really important, because we have hundreds of value systems, right? We have hundreds of life values. What are your top? What are the decision makers and guardrails, and how are you using them to really create the life that you want? Then we really start understanding, what's your communication style? What are your limiting beliefs? What's holding you back? What beliefs do we need to annihilate to really help make sure that we're changing some of your habits to change your thoughts and your behavior, right? We need to change behavior if you have, stinking thinking. If you've got limiting beliefs that are holding you back, we need to annihilate them. We need to push you forward into different habits and different behavior, a different thought process, and understand your communication style, because communication is huge. And that's a big portion of role modeling and understanding how we communicate with others, especially when it comes to leadership, when it comes to loved ones. The way we communicate, really spans a whole, suitcase of how we're going to endure a relationship. We can communicate in such a way to light somebody up and bring them forward and help us build trust and loyalty and love, or we can condemn people, and we could project onto them. We can communicate from a place of insecurity. We can communicate from a place of, defiance. And communicate from a place of mistrust. So it all depends on what your belief system is and what you're used to in your communication style. And unless you have a really great girlfriend or a friend who's going to say, the way you communicate is really destructive. Unless we understand the way you communicate and how you can communicate to reduce conflict, to build love, to make sure that you're communicating in a healthy fashion, it's a big piece. So understanding expectations. What is love? Tell me, what is your expectation? I want to know. Are you expecting to just get married? Did you want to meet somebody just so you can have a child because your biological clock is ticking? Like, I want to know and unpack so much of this. 3 months in, that's when I understand you well enough to begin the journey towards creating a match. That's only when we decide together, are you in a place set on your journey? Because you can't get to the finish line in this, right? You and I, we're not at our finish line. We haven't even, we're in the journey of our best self. We're not there, right? We're not there, we're in the journey. So we want to just get you on the journey with clarity. We want clarity for you. And recognizing that your life can be so fulfilling and abundant apart, because then you become more captivating, you add value into a relationship, you're more exciting, you're not insecure. We want to really harness all that. And then I'm able to understand you well enough to then go out into the world and find that potential soulmate. But we don't even talk about it until we really understand your journey.
Mm. And that is, I was just thinking of your the name of your business, your site, and your coaching programs, Gem Revealed, because everything you're talking about is about like doing the excavating and going deep, digging out that diamond, dusting it all off, cleaning off the dirt, and revealing the beautiful diamond that's underneath. And from that space is when you go and you have more clarity. The diamond's more clear, it's sparkling, and in that place is when you go on the journey of finding love.
Wow, I don't know if I've ever said it that beautifully. So I love the whole little lesson, the whole little object lesson you did right there. But I love it because each one of us are a diamond. You know,
Mhm.
we all are that diamond in the rough. Let's just really unpack it, polish it, really polish it up to make sure you're ready to go out into the world and show all your different beautiful facets. So I do, I
Mhm.
love that. I
Yeah.
love that.
And
So that
from
is
there,
Gem Revealed.
yes, Gem Revealed. I just see it. It's this big, beautiful, sparkling blue diamond. And that brings me to my favorite quote from Shabistari. I had mentioned it at the beginning before we began our conversation. And this is what this whole process reminds me of is, revealing yourself, your like core essence of yourself. And this is the work that we do. It's by Shabistari. It's one of he's a Sufi poet from hundreds of years ago. And so it's called The Chamber of Your Heart. Go sweep out the chamber of your heart. Make it ready to be the dwelling place of the beloved. When you depart out, he will enter it. In you, void of yourself, will he display his beauties. So,
Wow.
yeah, I love that. Makes me almost want to cry. But it's just like, when you get yourself or all the gunk out of the way and you take out that off that dirt and dust yourself off and open your heart to the true essence of who you are, is then when, you're displaying yourself. You're yourself, you're revealed. Your
It's
beauty is
true.
revealed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if we go backwards for a minute and go back to the beginning, you want to get to this place where you're revealed. But if we think about the obstacle, right? Maybe we've never defined the problem. We know the outcome is one out of every two marriages are failing. But let's really think about, especially if you're listening right now, why do women get into these relationships? They're lonely. They're desperate. They want to have a child. And none of these are wrong in and of themselves if you want company. That's not wrong. It's not wrong if you want to have a child. It's not wrong that you want to have a companion. None of these are wrong, right? Maybe we are trying to fill a void. Maybe we don't have a purpose, so you want this person to fulfill you. It's if you're not living the life that you want apart from a relationship, if you don't love yourself, that's such an old adage. If you don't love yourself, there's just no way to love someone else. You will inevitably pull forward whatever is inside of you, and you will project onto that relationship unless you're really on a journey of yourself, for your own future. Not that you've arrived, but you've got to be on the journey with some clarity.
Mhm. And a love of self, back in the day, it was like, oh, what does that even mean? That's selfish. That's like, it's like, isn't that selfish, or what is it? How do I even go about it? But everything that you talked about here is how you love yourself. It's the whole journey from that not loving yourself or not even understanding what it is to going through the whole process that you talked about, like your boundaries and fullness of life, and having more um having a more basis and understanding who you are more.
Yeah, if I were to put this thought and plant the seed into a listener's mind, you were created for a reason. Nancy, you were created for a reason. Each of us have a purpose in our in it planted in our heart, in our mind, and you need to wake up and go after that dream. It's in you. No, don't let anything stop you. Nothing that was said to you when you were a child, not society. Don't let your age, don't let your looks, don't let your height, your social status, your education, don't let that stop you from living an abundant, exciting, most fulfilling life. That's captivating. So, what is that inside of you that needs to be brought forth to create the life that you want to live? It's not a dress rehearsal. We're not here as a dress rehearsal. You're not promised tomorrow. Yes, there is a gentleman out there. He is out there. That prince is out there. You will find him and you will attract him 10 times faster, 100 times faster when you're not looking for him and you're more focused on building the most beautiful life for yourself and contributing to the world around you. And I'm going to say that again because that was important. When you're building your life, that's wonderful, but also contributing to others. If you're in a place and you're giving sacrificially, you're giving not out of your abundance, but you're giving from your scarcity and you're helping, watch. Watch how it turns around and you'll be attracting people very different. Why? Because your conversation is different. Your mindset is different. When you're anxious inside, when you're desperate inside, when you're like the in the desert and only a drop of water is desperate for you, it shows up in your face and your voice and your posture. When you're relaxed and you're filled with excitement and beauty and anticipation, it's also in you, and you can see it, and a man can see it, a man can sense it. So just hold on to that because it's really important.
Hmm. Yeah, the act of giving and being in service to others has its own energetic frequency to it because it's coming from a place of, like you said, not lack or need or in order to. It's just coming out of pure essence, pure love, pure spirit, and that resonates. And like attracts like, and it's such a beautiful thing to do and have.
To
Yeah.
shift your focus, and it
Yep.
doesn't need to be monetary. Send a note, send an email, send a text. Think now, take your focus off I have to meet the guy
Hmm.
and shift it to I want to leave a legacy into this world because that's what you're meant for.
Hmm.
Who's ever listening, that's what you're meant for. You're meant to leave a legacy, a footprint, a thumbprint. Your life is meant to leave an imprint really big. Focus there. What does that look like? And I promise, in fact, it's a guarantee. When you shift your focus, you start thinking about what your best self looks like, what your beautiful journey looks like, and how you're contributing to the world. You're going to find more of the dates. It might not be the prince in the first shots, but you're going to find a lot more of the dates and you'll be able to assess and gauge better and put your boundaries in place. Put those boundaries in place, and you're going to go through that dating process and recognize in a couple weeks, couple months whether that is the person you want to spend a lifetime with.
Hmm. Hmm. Love it and love it. I've loved this entire conversation. It makes me so excited, and I love what you're doing. You're helping so many women and men really understand themselves and to become this best version of themselves and then have those relationships that actually do last and don't become part of a statistic. So, how can people find you and work with you?
Yeah. So they can find me several ways. So all over social media. So Facebook is Gem Revealed. We have a Gem Revealed private Facebook page. On LinkedIn, it's Janine Monize. You could find it, and it's all Gem Revealed there. You can find us on Twitter, Gem Revealed. You can find us on Instagram at Gem Revealed. So we are all over. So Facebook is, LinkedIn is the only one that's under Janine Monize, but also the website is gemreveal.com. And there, what I would say is if you really want to take a journey, there is so much valuable content to go through the podcasts. And I've written so many articles, so many that really capture almost everything I said is written somewhere in an article and pops up into one of the podcasts. So all the podcasts are up there. On YouTube, it's Gem Revealed. You could subscribe. I'd love you to subscribe to YouTube. That's where all of the podcasts are. And, almost anything I've ever done on video is up in YouTube as well. So, but read the articles, because I really think the articles are just, they're dynamite. They're hard to read because you've got to look in the mirror and take responsibility.
Mm-hmm. And you can't you can't do anything unless you do really take a hard look at the mirror. And I've gone to your site and I've looked at your podcasts, and I am a subscriber myself, and there's a plethora of information and help on there for you to just dive into today to go take a look at. And then you can also reach out to Janine and work with her yourself and go on your own journey, and one-on-one basis, and reveal that beautiful gem. And that leads me to my last question that I ask all my guests. So I'd love to hear from you what it means to live from an awakened heart. We'll take it from the dating perspective.
So what does it mean? So just repeat the question again one more time.
It's what does it mean to live from an awakened heart? Or so maybe let's do it this way. What does it mean to date from an awakened heart?
Wow, it's a personal question. What a personal question. So I love it. What does it mean to date with an awakened heart? It can almost bring a tear to my eye. And the reason being is because without an awakened heart, you really are living in fear. Or for me, I would say it's either fear of rejection, you know, fear of loss, fear of, I would say mostly rejection. So living from awakened heart, and the place where I'm at today, means that I can move forward, and it's okay if it doesn't work out,
Mm.
because it wasn't meant to be.
Mhm.
It was actually wasn't meant to be. And that last relationship really gave me the understanding that I can have this beautiful emotional relationship and understand that in the end that it wasn't the right one. And that's okay. It's okay. It was okay even to be sad. We did all the right things. We did all the right things, only to find out that, yes, I gave my heart up and it wasn't the person. So it hurt. It hurt. But in the end, if I look back, it wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. It was a beautiful moment in the end. It was more his decision than mine. And it was sad, but it's okay. And I like to have the actual experience in my mind and in my resume of dating. And I know it was beautiful, and that's okay. And I'm ready to do it again.
Mm. What I'm hearing from that is trust and faith in the process, and more importantly, yourself.
Yeah, if I bottom lined it, that would be it.
Mhm.
To step out, not be fear. I know I speak to a lot of women who, because of past experiences at this age, haven't done some of that work. So it's really intimidating to be vulnerable. It's intimidating to feel rejected. So it's not rejection.
Mhm.
It's not rejection.
Yeah, and it's okay to be vulnerable because that's unless you are able to open your heart and really, it's a risk. You're taking a chance, but if you're not opening your heart and you're keeping it closed, you can't know. And if you get hurt, then like you said, it's just faith and trust that it's just not the right. I showed up how I needed to show up, and it's just not the right one. And then you carry that forward and you keep opening that heart and keep opening your heart and keep being expansive
Yeah, be
with
better, not
boundaries.
bitter.
With
Better, not
boundaries.
be better, not bitter, with boundaries. I like
Yes,
it.
there you
Be
go.
better, not bitter, and add the boundaries. And don't date if you're not ready,
Yep.
because that's where the obstacles really pop in, and conflict and compromise. So get that, do some of that deeper work. Do the
Hmm.
deeper work.
Hmm. And I just reflecting on stinking thinking. Don't have the stinking thinking. I love that. I'm going to be using that for myself whenever I get into that old, awful internal dialogue. No stinking thinking, and just move out of that. So,
Yeah, and make sure girlfriends, it's like we could just keep talking forever. But if you make sure that you're sharing your heart with girlfriends that are really for you, because
mhm.
if you have girlfriends who are struggling and they're not dating well, or they're in really bad relationships, or their relationships are looking less than stellar, don't think that deep down they want you to be in this glorious relationship, and they might be steering you and adding fuel to your fire. Make sure you're sharing your heart with people who are going to propel you forward into your growth mindset and a healthy mindset, an exciting, vibrant mindset, and you're not sharing it with somebody who's really pulling you down. I think that's important because the people around you matter. Your support system matters.
Mhm.
It really matters. That's why a qualified coach is another really, and don't let finances get in the way of your future, because I would almost ask, can you afford not to?
Mhm. Mm-mm. Well, Janine, thank you so much. This was such a wonderful conversation, and I can't wait to everybody hears this. Or no, I'm going to stop that because they are hearing it. Thank you so much. I love this conversation, and I can't wait to hear. I'm fucking up the end.
Fabulous.
I did it out. Well, thank you, Janine. I absolutely loved this conversation, and I'm going to take a lot of these key pointers that you gave everybody to myself for my own usage, because I, like you, I'm still seeking my soulmate. I'm ready for him. And I go through my own bumps of dating, of not wanting to date and doubting the process, but it's just having faith and trust in yourself, and knowing that there is a once you have all the tools, sharpened, that there is something higher at work, and having patience with the whole process. So once again, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yeah, this was a blast.
Yeah, it was a blast. All right, take care.
Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.